Hello YouTubers, it's me here once again, and today I am doing a album review, and I thought I'd do a new discography, just look at whoever I could think of, and the one guy I kind of thought of, I'm like, well, I like to do a discography of is Alice Cooper, because his music spans quite a lot of different genres, types of music, and different decades, so I thought, why not do Alice Cooper? Now, I thought, let's start all the way back in the beginning in 1969 and his signing. He was signed by Frank Zappa. So you could say without Frank Zappa, you don't get Alice Cooper. Now, however, during production, the album, Zappa left his brother in charge of producing the record, and from the sounds of it, all they got was their rehearsal material. That all they did was rehearse, and Zappa didn't really listen to it. But even for it being what it is, and that it's actually quite weird to think that Alice Cooper wasn't quite in his own. They were doing psychedelia, which around I'd say they were doing it right around the time it was dying, which is kind of a different way to look at it. Like to say, okay, psychedelia wasn't as big as it was maybe, let's say, a couple of years earlier, but it's still in its following. So it's following. Weirdness about this album is it's a Zappa record. You know it's going to have a bit of weirdness to it. Alice Cooper doesn't sing all the songs, which is quite weird on this album. But you look at it for what it is. It's not terrible. It's not bad. There's some really good songs on this album and even songs that would later get reworked, moved into other songs. For example, Reflected would later become Elected on Billion Dollar Babies, which when I get to that album, I'll have a bit to say about. It's not anything terrible or anything. It's Alice Cooper, and you really hear in this album a real experimental side. Like, you get a lot of the songs. It starts off with the Titanic Overture, which is this really symphonic music, and it kind of felt, and I read up on Wikipedia about this, it actually felt a lot like early Pink Floyd, in a way, that Barrett-esque Pink Floyd, and then to hear, oh yeah, they were there when what's the term? Barrett was there in the States touring, but you can really hear a bit of a Floyd-esque to it, at least a Barrett-esque Pink Floyd to it. Other things about it, song lengths were not very long. This, I believe, is the days before you really got the long-ass songs, but with what it was, you didn't really need it. You get really the first half of first three songs of the album are only about 7 minutes. Like the Titanic Overture was a good piece to it. Then you get 10 Minutes of the Worm, Swing Low, Sweet Cherry-O. Then you get Today Mueller, which is another under 2 minute song. And it moved by quite quickly. And then you get to Reflected, which was a longer song. But it never really felt like an actual album in a way, so I can't really knock it for that. In my opinion, it's more of a experimental piece, really. And it really shows maybe a bit of Alice Cooper's willingness to be a little out there. But I look at this album and to see where it is, the band liked this album. Now, the next album I'm going to talk about is kind of the same way. It's a very weird album, especially to hear Alice Cooper. If you're expecting to hear like Loved You to Death or Killers or School's Out or Billion Dollar Babies or Welcome to My Nightmare, if you love that era of Alice Cooper, this is not the era for you. This is maybe the more experimental side of Alice Cooper, which is actually something I really like. I like this album. It actually was a breeze to listen to. It wasn't too long. And I'll say this, there was moments on this album where you heard that Alice Cooperness to it, where it was that good vocals, hard rock, hard driving music. And I just felt on this, if they would have maybe spent more time on it, it might have been a little better than what it was, but it is what it is. If I had to give it a grade out of 10, or let's do this out of 5, I'd definitely give this album a 3 out of 5. It's not the worst thing in the world, and it's not terrible. It's very listenable, like, to people who, like, maybe it's the fact I do like Frank Zappa music, maybe it is the fact I do like a lot of that obscure 60s and 70s hard rock, psychedelia type stuff. It actually, if you like that stuff, it's a great album for you to really delve into because you get a lot of that obscure Alice Cooper in there. But yeah, 3 out of 5. I think it's a good album. There's moments. Like, I'm not saying this album's completely devoid of anything, but there are moments. And once again, be sure to like, comment, favorite, subscribe. Once again, this is another one of my videos. Peace.